Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the unofficial last night of summer here at Jay's Geek House. It's hazy, hot, and humid, disgusting dew point in the mid-60s, the works. The sad part is that by this time tomorrow, we'll be looking at an overnight low of 49. So the humidity breaks tomorrow. So I'm very much looking forward to that. I think after, 3 solid months of never-ending humidity, a little bit of actual dry weather would be very, very welcome at this point. So yeah, you're going to hear fans one more time, and I'm annoyingly going to have to put the air conditioner back in the window, even though it's almost mid-September one last time. It's still better than snow, though. So I am currently in the process of disappointing all of those trollish people that refuse to watch anything other than tech videos, because whether they like it or not, as I've explained numerous times before, this is not a computer channel. And right now, World of Warcraft Legion has received such great initial reception, and it's been such a good experience, that that's going to dominate what I do at my free time now that Monolith is built. I didn't build Monolith for World of Warcraft Legion, and it flies all over it right out of the box. But definitely, I'm going to enjoy this game. There's a ton of stuff to do, and actually the expansion is reminding me of Wrath of the Lich King in terms of how much you can really invest some time in it, even if you're not raiding. Very, very good leveling experience, and I am in no rush to get to max level and start raiding, even though raids I think are going to start opening up next week. However, that's not to say that the hardware world is completely dead now that I've built the system I wanted to build. I gotta say a few words about JayzTwoCents. Oh, brother. So JayzTwoCents built another ultra-cheap gaming PC. He does this from time to time. He built some kind of console killer or something like that. Say, hey, you don't need a lot of money to get into PC gaming. So he caught a Labor Day sale at a Micro Center. First and foremost, lucky bastard, he actually has a Micro Center that he can go to. In my neck of the woods, the closest Micro Center is Cambridge, Massachusetts. That's quite a pilgrimage to buy a computer. That's why e-tailing is what it is with Newegg and the rest of them and things like that. But he did this video where he spent a little under $400 to build a gaming PC. It's kind of a follow-up to something he did earlier with an AMD Kabini system. And he's like, hey, look what you can do, ultra cheap. I can play Battlefield 4 on medium with this thing and get decent frame rates with no graphics card. He should have done a follow-up to that, because we got AMD has done some APUs since the Kabini, the Godavari and things like that, and soon I think the Bristol Ridge is going to go to system builders. I think it went to OEMs first, and eventually it's going to be a part that people can buy, and the socket AM4 that a Bristol Ridge APU goes into will actually fit a Zen later on, maybe with a BIOS update at the very least. However, the processor that he picked up for this, because he was just buying stuff on sale at Micro Center, was what he called an Athlon 5350 quad-core. But the minute I heard Athlon 5350, I almost paused the video with absolute laughter, because this is what he got. The AMD Athlon 5350 Kabini, aka the teeny weeny Kabini. This is the piece of junk chip that you get when you just have to have a computer, no matter what. Quad-core, 2.05 gigahertz, socket AM1, so not exactly any kind of upgrade path unless you want to go up to the 5370, which is a slightly newer version of this pathetic piece of silicon, but pathetic piece of crap. There's a major problem with building even a cheap system with one of these things in it, and that is, right now we've got more and more AMD parts going on sale at fire sale prices because the Zen is going to displace all of them. Not only is the Zen going to perform better than everything that AMD has in their portfolio right now, they're standardizing the sockets. So there's not going to be any more AM1, AM3+, FM2, so it's all going to be AM4 from everything I'm reading so far. So yeah, this is going to get even cheaper. This is a $40 processor right now. He caught some deal where he got the motherboard essentially for free. So look, motherboard and processor for $40. Yeah, but you can't do anything with it. You just bought a throwaway computer. That thing's not a computer, it's an appliance. You might as well have bought an off-the-shelf system with a ton of proprietary stuff. More on that later, though. So yeah, He bought his little teeny weeny Kabini, and then he's like, oh, I think I'm getting CPU limited. You don't say. It was very good for a laugh, but I highly recommend that folks do not do what Jay did, because, look, folks, we need to swallow our pride, those of us who build our own systems, and admit, when you're down at a price point of under $400, you essentially want a console killer. Console killers are a joke. At that price point, you might as well just buy a standardized off-the-shelf system. Question is, are there any OEMs left that will actually use somewhat standardized parts for their systems? The answer is yes. Specifically, Asus. This is what I would buy if I was starting over from scratch. On sale right now at Newegg for $329, but these things go on sale like every couple of weeks or so. This is the Asus M32, powered by an AMD A8 APU A8 5500, 3.2 gigahertz, 4 gigs of DDR3, which sucks. I'd bring it up to at least 8 after buying it. And there's no graphics card. So what you would do with this is you would play with the APU to see what that thing can do out of the box. But the good news is, funny, JayzTwoCents is the lucky bastard who actually can go to Micro Center, whereas I can't. But Micro Center's website actually showed up in Google image search when I went to look at the inside of one of these things. This is the inside of one of those M32s. Looks pretty standardized. Crap-ass itty-bitty case, but you can always upgrade the case. Crap-ass itty-bitty power supply, but I've already seen YouTube videos of people upgrading the power supply. And even the connector for the power supply going to the motherboard isn't that proprietary thing like what my dad got burned with the Lenovo box. A side note on Dad, we bought that Lenovo hastily because he wouldn't have had a computer otherwise. The terrible old E-machine that he'd run into the ground for far too long was dying very quickly, so we were forced to buy an inferior system just so he could have something to use. This is why a backup computer is actually a very good idea, so you're not rushed if you want to stay connected, so to speak. Or a backup device or something like that, which is why Tuxedo still plays a role in the computer stuff that I do. Because if anything happens to Monolith that puts it out of commission, I'm not stuck with portables that can't handle any graphics. So I wouldn't hastily have to go buy something to get back to some kind of semblance of something while working on fixing Monolith. So, 2 slots, probably caps out at 16 gigs, but this is what I would get at the 300-something price point to start out with. It gives you the basics, and you can actually upgrade this thing. So, you might run out of room in the case pretty quickly, there's nothing that motherboard can do, and you'll definitely have to upgrade to a Windows retail license if you want to keep using Windows, because the OEM licenses are often tied to the motherboards such that they live and die with the hardware they're initially installed on. But then again, Jay's machine sets you up to need upgrades very shortly, and it's a great example of it's a great example of incremental purchasing. If you buy something like a teeny weeny Kabini, odds are you're buying what you can afford rather than what you need. So what ends up happening is you don't get what you need, and it gnaws away at the back of your head until you cave and eventually go get what you need by whatever means necessary, which is what you should have done in the first place. Except now you're stuck with something you never really needed, or should have never really bought. So what do? Try and sell it on eBay? This thing's 42 new. By the time, unless it's an instant disappointment, if you get like a year or two out of this Kabini, and the Zen comes out, what do you think you're going to get for this? Especially what the Zen is about to do to AMD's portfolio. It just doesn't make any sense. Jay was just trying to make a point that you can do ultra cheap PC gaming, but if you're going to look at that price range, skip building. No, seriously, just buy an off-the-shelf system like this and then upgrade it later. Nothing wrong with that. It's taboo to so many people out there, but I've actually seen videos of people upgrading these things. Better power supplies, better graphics cards, and quite frankly, this is a good starter package. It's probably better than a lot of the a lot of the Newegg super combos out there. Yeah, sure, you don't build it this time, but get your feet wet by replacing one part, then another part, then let's try this, and let's try that, until you know your way around a system. So yeah, I wouldn't even bother with something like what Jay did. So I don't know what he's going to do with the teeny weeny Kabini. Maybe he'll eBay the thing. Maybe it's already gone for all I know. But quite frankly, what he should have done is basically something similar to his Kaviri experiment. Newer APU. It's really something else entirely that he did something like this. But what can I say? It gets him views on YouTube, so that's why he does it. That's the closest thing to accountability that some of these big not for-profit, but these big channels have going for them. Is, oh yeah, if people keep watching, we keep doing that. So, even if it's not exactly the best thing to do here. So yeah, get one of those instead if you want to get something in the 300s, because this will come with a Windows license. You can throw in some rinky-dink graphics card, maybe some kind of low-power one just to get some more 3D going in this thing. Maybe like an RX 460 or something, and the money you would have spent on Windows that's probably what you'll get. If you want to spend like 100-ish something for a graphics card, if you're starting over from scratch, maybe an RX 460 in this thing would work well with the APU in terms of stacking the graphics capabilities. But the big thing is I infinitely prefer these things because they're very standardized. The only reason I didn't get one for Dad back during the Lenovo fiasco earlier is because they sold out. So nobody had these in the 300s anymore, and the Lenovo was in the 200s. He just needed something, and he got something, but unfortunately the motherboard connector is actually less pins than standard, so we need an adapter for that or something like that in order to have any chance of upgrading it. Or as one commenter put it when someone was asking about upgrade options for those Lenovos, it's like trying to make a sports car out of a minivan. Anyways, nice that this is a standardized system. So this would, actually I'm thinking of getting one of these in case Tuxedo kicks the bucket, and then just transfer the hardware, just transfer the motherboard and everything into Tuxedo. But we'd have to finish killing Tuxedo first. So yeah. Beware the teeny-weeny Kabini and the ego-driven, I'm going to build a system even if it makes more sense to just buy one type thing. And ultra-cheap PC gaming doesn't necessarily need to mean you get a teeny-weeny Kabini. Right, back to some Legion coverage, because there's a lot of good things I can say about that game. People are going to be disappointed, but, when folks get more open-minded, then they'll get what's going on here. This is MultimediaJay. Signing off. Thanks for stopping by.